to the entertainment Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Hope everybody's staying safe out there. And in this video, I'm going to dive into some of the potential options for the New York Giants if they do indeed decide to go the free agency route to replace Deandre Baker if they decide to move on. Now, of course, we're not going to know if they move on from Deandre Baker probably for a little while. Being with the dead cap situation, they're going to let all the evidence play out. But I think it is definitely a possibility that the Giants will look to bring in somebody via free agency. I will make another video, I'm not sure if it'll be up today or tomorrow, talking about the potential options on the roster. Of course, there's a number of guys that could step up and fill that void, but I would think it would at least make sense to bring in somebody, if you have the cap space available, that could compete for this spot on this roster. It's something that Joe Judge is elected to do, and they certainly could use another guy capable of playing the cornerback spot on the outside. Now, a lot of people have brought up Logan Ryan. I'm going to talk about him in this video. Logan Ryan has some experience playing on the outside, I'm pretty sure to my knowledge, but he was projected to be going to the Jets. That did not happen, at least as of now, and he was projected to go there to play the slot corner position. He, of course, from what I've read, has lost his step. So, yes, you could bring him in. Right now, the beggars can't be choosers. They could play Ryan at the slot and maybe move other players around. We'll have to wait and see. So he does remain an option if the New York Giants have the money to bring him in, along with a couple of other players. I saw an article on Giants Wire breaking down the 7 most likely candidates. I picked out 5 of them that I think made the most sense. They mentioned Eli Apple. I wasn't even going to waste my time bringing up Eli Apple. The Giants traded him. I don't see them bringing him back. They would kind of look hypocritical. I think part of the reason why they traded him was the culture thing that they keep bringing up. So I don't see Eli Apple coming back here. There's definitely a couple of veterans that are interesting. Some of them have injury histories. The one that I really like, and we're going to get into at the end, is a former Baltimore Raven and Dallas Cowboy, and he has a tie to Jason Garrett. But let's jump into some of the names of guys that the New York Giants could potentially bring in to fill the void for Deandre Baker if they decide to move on. The first guy we're going to talk about is Logan Ryan. And Logan Ryan, of course, has ties to Joe Judge with the New England Patriots. I've talked about him extensively before free agency, during free agency, after the draft, because he's still an available free agent. The reason behind it, I'm not 100% sure. The guy's pretty durable. He's coming off a very strong year. We're going to jump into his stats in a second, but he's even expressed that he'd like to come here. He's a former guy from Rutgers, so he'd be coming back home. He's talked about wanting to go to a situation that would fit his family. Logan Ryan is, of course, right now seems to be the fans' most popular pick. He also would probably cost the most money based off of his production. He's still relatively young. He's not a spring chicken, but could be a great stopgap cornerback. Like I said, though, he projects more to be a slot corner. Some of the articles I've read about him recently, some people even think he may share time between the slot and the safety position. But here's his stats. He will be 29 next year. Like I said, he spent time with the New England Patriots from 2013 to 2016. I think he got that starting cornerback spot full-time, I think, in 15, and then he took off, got that contract with Tennessee. Last year with Tennessee, he had a PFF grade of 65, which is pretty good. I think it was 64.9. I'm rounding up. But if you look at the numbers there, he kind of did a little bit of everything. He got after the quarterback. He had 4.5 sacks out of the cornerback spot, came up with 4 forced fumbles, and 4 interceptions, which matched, his career high was actually in his rookie season, believe it or not, in 2013, where he had 5. But, he has 17 career interceptions. And when you watch the highlights, you watch the film on him, which I watched before this video, he still has good anticipation skills. They kind of lined him up all over. He wasn't exclusively in the slot. And he's been relatively durable. He's only missed 3 games over his last 3 games over his last 3 seasons with the Tennessee Titans. And last year, he played a full slate of games, which is why, to me, he's probably the most attractive option. May not be the most realistic. Let's keep going. We're going to get to the next player on the list, and that is Dre Kirkpatrick. Dre Kirkpatrick is a former first-round pick in 2012 of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, he suffered an injury last year. He only played 6 games. Like I said, beggars can't be choosers. Had a PFF grade of 61.7. He's been an okay cornerback in the league. The reason he's available, I would guess, is because of that injury. Before that, even, he's only played 2 years where he's played all 16 games. He's been okay. You don't see any Pro Bowls there. He's up there in age. He's going to be 31, coming off an injury. To me, not one of the more attractive options, and I don't think he's one of the more realistic options. Doesn't get a lot of interceptions. He only got 10 career interceptions. I don't know. Nothing jumps off the page for me for Kirkpatrick. I know he was viewed as a very talented player coming into the league, but to me, he didn't live up to that draft position, and probably not a guy that I think the New York Giants will have much interest in. The next guy we're going to talk about is pretty interesting, and I actually saw, first off, I saw this on Giants Wire. I also saw Big Blue Unbiased made a video on Ross Cockrel, a former New York Giant. He's jumped around the league. Not the highest PFF grades last year, 57.5. But there's some interesting stats that I was able to pull up on him. One, he's still relatively young. He's 29 years old. Played for the Giants in 2017. Got his first chance to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers back in 2016, where he played all 16 games. But this was a pretty interesting stat that I was able to pull up from the Giants Wire website. From 2010 to 2019, he ranks third in all of football, just above Malcolm Butler, in forced incompletion percentage among cornerbacks over that time span. On 18.4% of the passes thrown his way, he forced an incompletion. So that was an interesting statistic. Still relatively young, doesn't seem to have that much of an injury history. Maybe he could be a guy that the New York Giants look to bring in to compete in training camp. The next guy we're going to talk about is another former Bengal, Darqueze Dennard, who also has a little bit of an injury history. He's more of a slot guy. He's still pretty productive. Another former first-round pick, like I said, has the highest PFF grade of any cornerback on this list at 72.2. And if you look at him, he's been in the league since 2014. He'll be 29 next year, much like a lot of the players on this list. He only played 9 games last year. He's only played 22 games over the last 2 seasons combined. 2017, he played a full slate of games. Like I said, he's going to line up mainly in the slot. But beggars can't be choosers. Is he my first pick? No, probably wouldn't be my second. The last guy I'm going to talk about is probably the guy that I think is the most realistic. He'd be a stopgap option, and that is Brandon Carr. Formerly from the Baltimore Ravens, he's now a free agent. The reason he's a free agent, well, he's old. He's going to be 34 next year. Matter of fact, I think he turns 34 in 2 days. But if you could sign him to a 1-year deal, could make a lot of sense. The guy is actually still a pretty productive pro. Had a higher PFF mark than Logan Ryan with 67.5, and he's been incredibly durable over the course of his career for the most part. Actually, I pulled up the wrong stats there. But I don't think he's missed a game. I know he played a full slate of games last year. Brandon Carr could make a lot of sense for the New York Giants if they elect to go the free agency route. Now, will they? That remains to be seen. They definitely, like I said at the beginning of this video, could stick with the guys that they have on the roster. But knowing Joe Judge's philosophy, knowing that he's trying to promote competition, and you're already missing a man now with Deandre Baker at a pretty thin position. Yes, the secondary is pretty loaded in terms of talent, but that's mainly at the safety position. I think they could definitely use another body, and they could use a guy with some experience. If it was up to me, outside of Logan Ryan, who's probably going to cost you the most, and he's more of a slot guy, I'd probably lean towards Brandon Carr, even though he's up there in age 33, going on 34. Obviously, we're late in the game. This isn't the beginning of free agency. All the top corners are off the board. I don't know how much any of these guys would cost. Didn't even, there's no way for me to speak on that, but there's a reason that these guys are probably still free agents, because they haven't gotten the price that they were looking for. Well, the Giants are going to do their due diligence. I'm sure they're going to look at all these guys and probably even more. Another guy that I didn't mention was Tremaine Johnson. Like I said, Eli Apple, but I honestly don't see that happening. Logan Ryan's a guy I really like, and he's a guy with connections to Joe Judge, so he's certainly a possibility, and I suppose all 5 guys I mentioned are. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out, but they could very well elect to just go with what they got, and start Sam Beal or start Love or Corey Ballantyne or whoever else. We'll have to wait and see what they do, but it's the next man up. We can't sit and dwell about Deandre Baker, and I hope he's innocent, and maybe this is all nonsense, and maybe everything clears up in a couple of days and he's going to be a New York Giant. Don't bank on it. The guy, well, I'm not going to get more into that, but hopefully that's the case. But if it is not, I think the New York Giants will look to acquire somebody via free agency or even possibly a trade. I would hope not a trade, because I don't want to be giving up draft picks when this team right now, in my opinion, is not a win-now football team. But I do think we need somebody to be a stopgap player at that position that is now vacant due to what's going on with Deandre Baker. But we'll see how it all plays out, guys. Also, I wanted to do a quick announcement that today I will be on with Fireside Giants. Not sure when they're going to post that on their page, but I'm going to be there on there in about 30 minutes. We're going to talk about this whole situation. Meant to mention that at the beginning of the video. That's my mistake. But as always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.